A brand new report has revealed another top target for the Boston Bruins, who are looking to acquire a number one center. And this one features Trevor Zegras in as many times as many years. We're going to be breaking down this report, which has fans split on the idea of this trade. And I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to listen to this, go throughout the video, and let me know what you think, because this is, I'm not going to deny it, a wild one. Very quickly, before we jump into this video, though, if you haven't subscribed already to the channel, we're on the road to 7K, and we have a lot of Boston Bruins news to cover. There's no doubt about that. As this offseason continues to roll around, be sure to do so. We know that just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed, but let's get straight into this video. Starting out here with the interesting report, which kind of started off this article and, made it seem a bit reasonable. And it goes, the Bruins obviously need to add a top 6 center slot, and one trade pitch brought up by fan-sided Bruins writer Seamus Sullivan would meet that need by bringing in Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, for those who remember, for those who were here around this time last year, we had another report. Well, I guess it was a few weeks after this time because the Bruins were still in the playoffs, but we had another report of Trevor Zegras coming to this team, looking to be traded to this team, all before we acquired Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, to really start off this offseason. We saw nothing worked out there, but now the reports have come up again, and when we look at it, Trevor Zegras, there's no doubt, is a very good player, has dealt with a lot of injuries, still yet to really prove how good he's been in the NHL, but we see the talent he possesses, and we see what he can bring. Now, where this report gets interesting is the reported comeback of this trade, the return of this trade to the Anaheim Ducks from Seamus. And this is what we have right here. Zegras is a dynamic young center who could thrive in a new environment. Acquiring him would likely require a significant package, including the number 7 pick as well as prospects that the Bruins are short on. Now, I completely agree that we need a center. I completely agree that Trevor Zegras would be a great option for the price he's getting at, and the contract price he would be getting. It seems like a good deal. But when you're putting out the 7th overall pick, when you're putting out prospects, all for a guy who was not really proved himself in this level yet, someone who's not really proved that he can be a top center in this league, that's where things get a little bit, a lot of uncertainty surrounding this trade. It kind of gets a bit what if, all this kind of stuff, but we need certainty at the Boston Bruins right now. And when it comes down to Trevor Zegras, of course, he would be a great player, but the side that he's been on as of late on the past few seasons, he wants out of Anaheim, he really hasn't proven to be worth that much. It is a situation where a lot of teams are not going to be willing to give it to him. When we go look at his points here this year, 57 games played in 32 points. Was playing some top-line minutes, some top second-line minutes, 24 years old, so still very, very young, but has not proven that he can go out and get, a 70, 80, 90-point season just yet. And Zegras, who has a career high in points of 65, that's not really enough to justify the 7th overall pick and prospects on top of that to the Anaheim Ducks. And there is some idea there that Trevor Zegras would be traded. There's uncertainty surrounding what the Anaheim Ducks plan is. He's kind of, I wouldn't say voiced, but, really exemplified that he would like out of Anaheim. There's a lot of questions surrounding that. But if that's going to be the ask for the Bruins when it comes down to it, if that's going to be, or the ask for the Ducks, for all of this, that's where things get a little bit kind of crazy, I guess we can say, in this term. But when we look at the Bruins picks, they do have the picks to be able to make a trade like this happen. However, Zegras for a first plus more, that's just completely unreasonable. But if they wanted to throw in maybe a second, maybe in a 27 or 25, or even a third and a second, it's possible to kind of mix some picks up in that realm of possibility. But when it comes down to the 7th overall pick, I think there's no way you can move that. In this case, for Trevor Zegras, I think you can move it regardless elsewhere, but to Trevor Zegras, or for his kind of skill set, I do not think that is very possible, and a good decision, a business decision for the Boston Bruins. Now, things keep on getting more interesting in this, because Seamus had another very interesting thing to say when it came down to other possibilities with the 7th overall pick, and this is what he had to say. Another option on the table is to trade the 7th pick to accumulate more draft capital. Sweeney has indicated openness to exploring trade options, including moving up in the draft or trading for assets. The 7th pick holds significant value, especially for teams like the Columbus Blue Jackets, who might offer picks 14 and 20 to move up. Such a deal would provide Boston with additional draft capital to address multiple needs or facilitate a separate trade for a roster player. Now, This is where things get very interesting on this term, because when you trade that 7th overall pick and get a 14 and a 20, yes, you're losing out in the 7th. There are a few players there, but after that draft lottery, the Bruins dropped out of the top 5, which ultimately leads to a bit of uncertainty after number 5, number 6, when you have Caleb Denoyer, Anton Frundell, James Haggins, Michael Misa, Matthew Schaefer. Those are pretty guarantees 1 through 5, but after that, it gets a bit uncertain after who's going to be there. We have Roger McQueen. We have guys like that who I've been speaking about for weeks on the channel that would be good options, but there still lays that element of uncertainty there where you have the tier 1, you have the tier 2 players, and then you drop off after that. So being able to go get a roster player, go make 2 selections at 14 and 20, the Bruins have a good look at what they're trying to do and what they would want to get after this. Because when we look at Trevor Zegras, who also would be an RFA after next season, 2 by $4.6 million for him, and then you'd have to pay more if he plays better. A lot of uncertainty surrounding that. But when it comes down to being able to add more picks to the ones we already have, just say we end up with 2 first-round picks this year, 2 second-round picks, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. That adds a lot of depth and a lot of talent to this team throughout the whole list of prospects that the Bruins have started to gain throughout this season in the trade deadline, and what they're going to be gaining here in the offseason. So, more than likely, I think the Bruins will end up keeping the 7th. I don't doubt they would trade it, and then, Don Sweeney has voiced that he would, but I would much rather see this one here, a 7th for the 14th and the 20th. It makes a lot of sense for the Bruins to do so. If you don't trust anybody that you're going to be getting in that top 7 pick, why not go trade it? Why not make that decision to be able to go and get more depth, or use both of those picks to trade for another star player? And that would be able to give the Bruins quite a bit of talent in that situation, but it also makes it so they would have to make this trade before the draft if they wanted to use those to get a player. It's possible at the draft, but gives the Bruins more time to start with if they did it a few weeks before, and you never know. That could end up something very, very soon. It's still going to be questioned if that's the smartest idea, but it is one that I'm perfectly fine with. And when we take a look at the Bruins roster, look at their contracts coming up for this upcoming season, there is some depth down in the middle, but you don't have that number 1 guy, and Trevor Zegras, I don't think will be that number 1 guy regardless. If you put him with Pastrnak, Geeky, Lindholm, I just don't think it would work out for him perfectly for a number 1 center. He could be a number 2 center or a number 3, absolutely, but putting him at number 1 here, I just don't think is the right decision for the Bruins to make at this very point in time. But there's a lot of center depth here, not a lot of star talent, but Trevor Zegras, I feel like would just kind of add to the pile they already have without making a drastic change. But you go out, make a trade with those picks, you go out and have a look at, $28 million that we're going to be having in this upcoming season. That's a lot of money to be able to go get a star center who costs maybe a little bit more than you would like, but with those picks, you could facilitate a trade sending a team 2 picks in the first round. So let me know what you think about this. This is a very interesting situation, which I think we're going to hear a lot more of over the next coming days and weeks as we get more about the picks and more information about the draft, a lot of that, and I think that's going to start some movement for the Boston Bruins. So let me know what you think about not just Trevor Zegras, but let me know what you think about moving the 7th for, let's just say, the 14th and the 20th from a team like Columbus. Though they're looking for a goalie, the 7th pick is hard to pass up for something like that, and a team is trying to get better. So let me know what you think about that, but that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.